Hi everyone, today I'm going to bring you an Infusible ink project that I am making with the Infusible ink that came with the brand new Wild Side mystery box. Great mystery box, folks. Infusible ink is an awesome product because it actually dyes the fabric that you're working on instead of just being stuck on top with an adhesive. So it won't peel off, it won't generally wash off, and you can't really feel it because it's just part of the fabric. I'm using this particular colorway. This is the Rainbow Cheetah, and I'm using this color. And I want to show you how this is packaged and what you get. Comes in a black sleeve. You're going to want to keep this. Don't throw this away until you're empty and done with your Infusible ink. And then your Infusible ink will come inside like this in a roll. And inside that roll, in this case I have two sheets. There's this pink one and then there's the cheetah, which I used for my cutout. You also get two sheets of butcher paper. You're going to need one of these to cover your design with. And then it also comes with a little piece of polyester fabric. You can use this to test your Infusible ink on to make sure that you've got your settings right if you happen to be a little concerned. And then you've got a little card here that tells you can get more information on the Cricut site. And your keep dry pack. Don't eat that. And I always put that back in my box. So I've got a sheet of butcher paper that I'm going to use. And then I'm going to be doing this on one of the large Cricut tote bags. My granddaughter has a whole bunch of the fashion plates. It's a really, really old toy where you put these plates in a plastic like frame and then you use a flat crayon to draw over the top and it'll draw different fashions. So I came up with what I thought was a really cute design for the front of that bag so that she can store all of her stuff in the bag. You're also going to need an extra piece of just plain white cardstock. In my case, I'm just going to use a piece of copy paper. I've never had this bleed through my fabric, but I'll put this in there just in case. And then you're going to have your design that you cut out. I already cut this out. And normally, when I'm weeding a design, I prefer to weed it on the mat because it helps hold it down for me. But Infusible ink is different. This does not weed like iron-on or adhesive vinyl, so leaving it on the mat, it's not going to work for this. So I'm going to flip my mat upside down, and then I'm just going to kind of roll my mat off of it so that it doesn't curl this up any worse than it already is. And then I'm going to put my cover back on my mat to try to keep it as clean as possible. Now, for weeding Infusible ink, what you want to do is you just want to kind of roll it and crack it. Let's see if I can get this to roll the other way. When you roll it, that'll help break the seams apart. I think that would probably work. And we just got to find a spot to start. You shouldn't normally need tools to weed Infusible ink. You should be able to get it to weed just with your fingers. Give myself a little bit of extra light over here. Sorry if I'm blinding you guys. It's probably not the ideal time to have cut all my fingernails off. Almost. I did bring my pointy tweezers just in case I have something that gets stubborn or does not want to let go. Ordinarily, you don't want to use tools though because you don't want to risk jabbing a hole in your Infusible ink. does my design go? It's kind of hard to see where my design is, but I can definitely feel it. And I tend to like to kind of tear my pieces off as I go to make it a little bit more manageable. And you will find sometimes, this is a piece that's a prime example, where it's leaving some little stragglers behind. As long as those little stragglers are white and you don't actually see any color on them, they're perfectly fine to leave there. I gotta see what's left here. Looks like I got a lot of blank space right down here. I have been cutting so much stuff for the last few days. Probably time to change my blade, or I could have told this to cut with more pressure, and that probably would have done a little bit better job. But it's actually not that hard. Okay, now these little tiny pieces inside, this is where I'll probably use my little tweezers just to grab it. And on this piece right here, and then we've got a little piece in this R. You also want to make sure when you're working with this product that your hands are very clean. You don't want the oils from your hands marking up your ink sheets. I think I got the top half of the dress weeded out good. Now let's work on this bottom half. Now remember, like I said, what you're really after here, just to make sure you're not leaving any color behind that you don't want to transfer. And this is a prime example of don't give up hope. You know, if you get one that doesn't cut really well, as long as this top surface cut, you can totally still use it. Okay, we got that one. That one. And we have one more here. Okay, I think I got it all. Might not show on camera very well, but I'm pretty sure I got all of the areas weeded. Okay, now if you look, you won't see any extra color. There's a lot of white, but there's no actual color attached to it. As long as there's no color on it, it shouldn't transfer. Okay. Let's set this aside for a minute. Now, I have a shortcut saved on my cell phone that takes me to the Cricut Heat website. I'm going to select my Easy Press and Infusible ink transfer, and then I'm doing a tote bag, and it tells me I need 385 for 40 seconds. So I'm going to use my Easy Press SE, and I'm going to set my temp for 385 and then my time. For 40 seconds. Helps if you actually push the, oops, wrong way. You actually push the button. Okay. And then we'll let that warm up. And while it's warming up, I will see if I can vacate some of this pile of trash that I created. And while we're waiting for that to heat up, I want to re-roll everything that I took out of my little sleeve and get it put back in. You want to keep these stored in a cool, dark place, and that's why you want to hold on to your little black sleeve. And put our little desiccant back in there. Our little tag. And our little sample fabric. Fold it back up and get it back in your box. Okay, and let's go ahead and prep our tote bag. I love these Cricut tote bags. I make a lot of these for gifts. They're just super handy, and I love that I can use infusible ink on them. And look at how big it is. Let me get the cord out of the way. We don't want to press the cord. Okay, now we are going to want our piece of paper inside just to make sure that we don't have any bleeding that goes all the way through. And make sure your handles are up out of your way. And then we're going to want to lint roll it just to make sure, even though I just pulled it out of a package, I want to make sure that there's no lint on it. Because if there is, your infusible ink will adhere to the lint and then it will fall off. Okay. Now our press is heated up. And I can still see enough of this that I can place it the way I want. Okay, that looks pretty even. And just because these like to curl up, I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of pieces of tape on it just so it doesn't shift. Now I'm going to feel inside and make sure that my paper is lined up underneath this. And then I'm going to cover that with my butcher paper. And Cricut says this needs firm pressure. So we're going to take our easy press. We're going to make sure we've got the entire design covered. And then I'm going to start my timer. And I'm just going to lean. You don't need to stand on it. You don't need to put all of your weight into it. Just set it down on your item and lean. And whatever you do, don't move it. Once you put this down, you need to hold it in place so that your ink doesn't get ghosted. I've made that mistake a time or two. Okay, now that it's done, I'm going to hold on to my paper down here and I'm going to lift straight up. I want to minimize any risk of it shifting my design. Now, as you can see, it pretty much already came up off the fabric, so I'm going to grab my tape and peel up quickly so it doesn't transfer anything else. Look at how nice that turned out. And you can see it used up most of the ink off of the sheet, except right over here, but you can clearly see, even though this still has some ink on it, that this is nice and dark. I'll hold it up so you guys can get a better look. Sometimes when you're working on projects, infusible ink is just one thing. My guess is, in my case, my blade is probably getting a little bit dull, and because of that, it didn't cut through as cleanly as it could have all the way through. But I wanted to go ahead and finish with this anyway so that you could see that you can still make it work. This was totally still usable. Nothing was ruined. I just had to make sure that I weeded out anything that had color on it. So now you know you can rescue those projects and not waste your product. And now my granddaughter has a great tote bag that she can use to hold all of her fashion plate parts. And she'll be super excited. Hope I gave you some tips that help you out. Happy crafting!